Seen in zombies since Doris, teleporters have played a larger role in this storyline than just being a form of transportation around the map or to the Pack-a-Punch. In this video, I'll be going through the history of the different teleporters seen in the series, and I should clarify, I only mean man-made teleporters. Rifts or tears will not count, and that'll be for another day. It is unknown when this moment in time happened, but either before or after the discovery of Element 115 and founding of Group 935, Dr. Ludwig Maxis was contacted by Dr. Monty, who gave him the knowledge needed to create something called a matter transference device, or teleporter. This is not the first time Dr. Monty has provided nudges such as this in the past, and it is implied he guided Cornelius Purnell to his ascension and Jebediah Brown to the creation of the Agarthan device and Pack-a-Punch. This nudge given to Dr. Maxis, however, would be one of the most damaging events to the multiverse's stability, due to transporting subjects across time and space. MTDs were powered by Element 115, and outside of the time travel thing I just mentioned, it has side effects on a person such as memory loss and necrotization. However, there was a teleporter that existed long before Group 935's creation. Around the time of the multiverse's creation, including the realm known as Agartha, the Keepers would create their very own matter transference device. It is the very same one seen in the basement of the house. The Keepers use this as a means to travel through this growing multiverse, although as seen in maps such as Shadows of Evil or Zetsubo no Shima, the Keepers found an alternative means to do such a thing. Back with Group 935, the matter transference device's existence would catch the interest of the Reichstag. They'd approach Dr. Maxis and strike a deal. 935 would continue research on the MTDs, but they'd also include research into wonder weapons and super soldier programs respectively. What the Reichstag wasn't yet aware of was that 935's experiments with their teleporters weren't really going as planned. The subject would dissolve into a pile of flesh or necrotize in the chamber without teleporting to the mainframe. This necrotization is what created the zombies, which further caught the Reichstag's attention. They had their super soldier right there, they just needed to maintain control over them. This diverted attention meant that research and tests on the MTDs were coming to a standstill, except for Doctors Richtofen and Schuster, who continued on with their MTD tests, opting to start smaller rather than teleporting human or animal subjects. They chose to teleport a walnut. Their teleportation trial was a resounding success. The element did not affect the walnut, it remained completely intact, and successfully teleported from the chamber into the mainframe. Excitement and confidence running through them, Richtofen rushed to Maxis to inform him of their breakthrough. What should have been met with praise was instead demeaned on. Maxis berated Richtofen for what he deemed to be a small and insignificant breakthrough on the teleporter trials, and that he was not focusing on their more important work, such as their wonder weapons projects. Richtofen tried to remind Maxis of Group 935's original purpose, but Maxis made it clear that those ambitions no longer mattered. The Reichstag was providing Group 935 funding, and if they wished to keep that funding, then they must do as they said, wishing Richtofen a sarcastic good day before taking his leave. Richtofen would use this moment as his driving force of motivation on his betrayal to Group 935, but that is a story for another time. The teleporters would become stationed at 3 known facilities: Doris, the Kino facility, and Eagle's Nest, although Richtofen did have a mainframe constructed at Griffin Station. However, the MTDs would also make an appearance in the Pentagon storage room, which became the basis for their own teleporter research, which I'll discuss shortly. Outside of the Pentagon, the MTD appears in the Museum of Unnatural History, still in working order. I also believe that an MTD was implied to be within the closet Ultimus was trapped inside of during the events of Call of the Dead. To my knowledge, Ultimus's heavy exposure to Element 115 serves as the explanation for why they are capable of teleportation without turning into zombies. Or maybe Richtofen just meddled with the teleporters prior to them using them to make sure that they'd be fine. But what was the good old US of A up to with their own teleportation research? Well, after Group 935's disbandment, the United States obtained half of 935's research and surviving staff. In there was Maxis's prototype matter transference device, etched with writing that said, "To M, who started me on this journey." Dr. Schuster, acquired from the split, was placed in charge of all teleporter experiments and research, with the prime goal of creating a link from Groom Lake to Griffin Station. An issue Schuster was running into was that his subjects kept getting sent to 2025 instead of the current year, which for them was in the early 1960s. During one such test with the teleporter, Schuster had once again sent a subject into the future, but this time around he managed to bring 4 people back. But they were not previous subjects, no. They were instead Richtofen and his 3 test subjects, Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai. Unsure how they were on the moon or the future, the 4 of them are placed in Hangar 4 to be experimented on and studied, with Schuster being transferred to operate a drill device for Purnell. However, other teleporters did exist that were created by the United States, found throughout the Pentagon. In the 5 original, the teleporters brought you throughout the building randomly, with the numbers from the campaign acting as the portal itself. However, in the classified remake, these teleporters were redesigned and also less random, now giving an indicator on which floor you'd be going to. Keep in mind that classified takes place a day before 5, and so this difference in teleporters is either a difference in timelines or not meant to be taken seriously. Ultimus would also finish something called the Teleporter Signal Amplifier during their brief trip at the Pentagon, which they used to send them to Groom Lake. Keep in mind, this Ultimus is not the same Ultimus as I mentioned previously. There are 2 Ultimuses at Groom Lake during the events of Classified. Anyway, another teleporter created by the US, or more specifically, Broken Arrow, is the Mobile Matter Transference device seen in Alpha Omega. While the teleporters in the Pentagon were semi-random, possibly due to there being so many paths linked to one another, the teleporter found in Camp Edward is more traditional, though as the name suggests, it was mobile, meaning you could place these 2 teleporter pads wherever as long as it could provide the energy needed. Outside of Group 935 and Broken Arrow, the other research groups didn't really have teleportation technology, unless you count Ascension Group's Gersh device as a teleporter. But there was another teleporter invention beyond the Ether storyline. In the Cold War, at Outpost 25, the Russian organization known as Omega Group needed a faster way to transport staff members and various loads between bases and living quarters to the main facility. As such, a teleporter using Ethereum as a power source was invented. It isn't completely known to me how this teleporter works, but regardless, the Omega teleporter was a pretty important piece of technology for Outpost 25, and it'd be seen again at the Zakarpatska Oblast facility, requiring Requiem operators to fix up the teleporter to allow themselves access to more of the base. And it would seem that by the 1990s, Project Janus used Omega's designs to create their own teleporters, as seen in the mansion and at Janus Towers. It does not feature a new coat of paint or a Janus logo, it is simply the same device, thus not providing us with much lore. But I imagine its lore is similar in purpose to the Omega one, in just providing a faster means of travel for staff and cargo. But to all you teleporter users out there, do not be like Private Olev, and if you know, you know. And with that, that is the lore behind the known teleporter scene in Call of Duty Zombies. What started as an invention for the betterment of mankind turned out to be its most destructive invention to the multiverse itself. While the teleporter scene in the Dark Ether do not provide any such harm to the fabric of reality, making transportation a safer endeavor. Of course, there is the risk of not coming through the other side and getting lost in the Dark Ether, but I digress. With that all said and done, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.